Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call, the week where absolutely nothing happened in Star Citizen. So we thank God for Montoya. That's all I'm going to say. Montoya did the best thing we could have possibly done, and he posted a video that said Star Citizen should have PVE servers. So now we have something to talk about today. So thank you, Montoya, because that sent people on both sides kind of in a bit of a rage. So we're going to touch on a very small amount of things that happened this week. Basically, the most important thing that happened in the entire week in Star Citizen's news is one, we might have a roadmap next week, which is probably going to be meaningless. Two, there's a new loading screen.
Yes, which I do want to say it would be like one of my favorite things of this week, but I can't talk for like an hour about it. Um, this is one of the things that I do want them to do to increase my like narrative, like me caring about the narrative. So this is
it's part
in
of
the
it.
Exactly. Yeah. This is one of the things. I would still want more stuff. So this is in the PTU. It's post fight for Pyro, but like before the dynamic event, which I've already forgotten the name of.
Supply or die.
Supply or die. And so this gives us a bunch of information about, hey guys, this is like pretty much what just happened if you did miss that in your journal. So it's pretty cool. Most of it is in relation to the stuff that you're going to focus on. There's some cool things on the right side as well, though, just to make it look more like it is an actual newspaper. But I do not think that the people dying and being unable to respawn, or the fact that they are mentioning St. Patrick's Day, is super relevant to it. But everything else on here is like an actual article about what we just did.
Yeah. I guess the things that people are pointing at are going, well, this says release edition 4.0.2 March 2955. So,
sure.
Yeah.
March is what, next week?
No, I think, I guess Saturday next week is March.
February. Yeah.
But yeah, so towards the end of next week, and then Datatrine theft. So this is setting up the next event. Is, hey, pharmaceutical industry is reeling after a series of coordinated attacks on distribution centers, which there are no distribution centers that have Datatrine in them in the game right now. So it's all like fake stuff. But
well, that's why this done.
Yeah, they've never been there, Croncy, ever. Right? Where are these drug-making distribution centers? Where are the drug-making distribution centers? They don't exist. Skyrocketing prices for chemicals sent drug manufacturers scrambling to secure any available source. And then they tell you what Datatrine is. It's produced from the rare and highly regulated Dedatium fruit. Datadium. Datatrine is the refined form of a natural occurring toxin used in both medical applications and illegal drug manufacture. So it's a commodity in the game that we're gonna use and craft at some point. And then they like you said, they tell the Frontier Fighter stories. Now, another thing that somebody said was there are new error reports and things like that. There's just a new UI for them, in my experience. Have people seen because Benoit said that they would make new error reports that make you better understand the errors that you're getting. I did not see that yet, so I don't think it is a valuable piece of news just yet. It's just new UI, looks a little bit different. This is actually part of the gameplay, which I think matters. Now, the problem with this is I sat on this menu for 10 minutes, so I was able to read this 3 times while I was on the loading screen, and that is a big part of what 4.0.2 is supposed to remove, and it's not.
Hey, at least there's something to read other than just Stanton is a system occupied by... I didn't have that experience. I loaded in too quick and was unable to fully read everything, which was disappointing to me.
Australian servers.
Hey, I had my bad week, what was it, last week or the week before, and then I never get one again. That's how it works. Also, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of this picture, you'll also see, and once again, this is a picture, not a video, like a little circle, or you can see at least the remnants of like a little blue line. They've also updated they've updated the UI of that really terrible old loading that was at the bottom, that was like that white bar that would just
put it on. I'll put it on the TV. Actually, I think I
can. So yeah, just another nice little UI update. Cool.
There it is.
Yeah, exactly. So that's gone. That's gone. So rip Mike's emotes.
We'll just make a new one.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it. I mean, that was literally the most exciting thing. The other things were some of your bugs are getting fixed in and that's about it. But not all of them, right? Oh, I didn't do it. I've been so good for so many weeks. I was super focused on putting all the new names in for today.
I will say as well, before we get into our least controversial topic of all time, I did get to do the 24-hour stream at the start of this week.
Yes, how did it go?
Did that. So I lasted 18 hours. My body can no longer do 24-hour streams.
Yeah.
Star Citizen worked almost the entire time.
Yeah.
And I was astonished. I was astonished. It was great. It was awesome. We were able to do all of phase 3 over and over and over again. We were able to repeat it really easily. The contested zones were working so much so that we the first time I've ever had contested zones where we were in PvP for 3 hours.
Hell yeah.
We just had groups over and over and over again. And I think it was 3 groups coming back in, killing the first group, and then the second group attacking and whatnot.
Nice.
And so I had actually really, really good experience in Pyro. Probably for the first time since that first 2 days that 4.0 went live.
Yeah, that's sweet. The only time I went into contested zone was a little bit yesterday on the PTU, and for some reason there was a group of 3 doing it, and I went in there with just the meme Ripper gun. Yeah, and they were fully blasting, and I was like, "This is crazy." I will say though, PVE, the Ripper's kind of sick. It kills people really quick, but if a player's wiggling and moving all crazy, it's way harder for me, at least.
It's super short range too, right?
Yeah. So when I tried to kill them with it, it didn't go my way, and they didn't even want to pick up the gun for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I will just say that this has been the slowest week I've ever experienced, and to just touch on the topic a little bit from last week is, this week's got me a little nervous about the future of their development and the questions that people had. Even Jared had them. Is this a mistake? Things like that. Maybe, right? Those questions still are here. I've been playing a city builder, and it's been fantastic. Called Foundation. It's really, really good.
Ooh,
but I have no interest in being the game whatsoever. I will say this, and this is going to work against me here a little bit, but Croncy, you're very, very much involved in this, I believe. Is I don't think I should have it. Let's see. Yes, Regolith. If you guys are familiar with Regolith.rocks, why are you making me authorized with Discord now? But that's fine. If you guys are familiar with Regolith.rocks, I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now. This is a website that's a mining tool, and if you guys aren't familiar, basically all the stats that Red Monster, who comes on the podcast, talks about mining with us, they're gone. You can't data mine the stats anymore, so they need to be crowdsourced by people, and that's the data on this website is hundreds, if not now thousands, of crowdsourced data on the website of where rocks are, specifically in Pyro. I think basically Stanton's Untouched and is exactly the same way. So you can find where things are. And
awesome.
So it's really, really useful if you're thinking about doing supply or die. Ice is a part of it, and you're going to need to find where that is. And just want to point out that that's my org, baby.
That's you, Mike. That's just you.
No, that is just bone zoned. He's towards the top, but there's a lot of Quarkon, Cobbin. So my org, Core, Chris, High Lord. If you look, my org's been pretty active with this, and this is the only thing that mining's ever had as far as competition goes. And it's stupid. It's literally just scanning rocks. But if you guys do want to get this data correct and good and as close to a good sample size as possible, check this out. Join the Survey Corps. It's very cool. So just wanted to do a little shout out for that before we'll make sure we put you said.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put a link in the description and stuff because I also had no idea this existed, and now I'm into it. So
yeah, it's really awesome. So I think it's !rocks. So you can link that in YouTube if you want.
Yeah, awesome.
If you don't mind.
Very cool.
But yeah, with that, I will preface our topic for the day that we're going to go straight to calls. We're going to keep it pretty short this week. Is nothing happened, and Montoya made a post saying he believes that they should move Star Citizen's development, at least in testing, to have some PVE servers, which would just make the game more fun, was some of the arguments of the Redditors that he was reading and things like that. And I don't know how you feel, Croncy, but I think most people would know how I feel. I adamantly disagree with that. We have both played EVE Online, and I believe,
and other MMOs, which I think is important, because even though we do compare this to EVE a lot of times, like there is a lot of other comparisons to make too.
Exactly. But I'll let you take the reins here. I mean, I just finished ranting about it for 3-4 hours, so it's on you.
So I think the biggest thing, first of all, is why is everyone talking about this now and not before, right? And it's probably because Pyro is getting a lot more stable. People are now actually able to play the game for a reasonable timed session. Which means they're encountering a lot more players a lot more of the time, right? So,
I also believe, and I raised my hand this time because I'm trying not to interrupt this. That's my goal today, is to be less interrupty. I also think it's because they have gotten used to armistice zones, and now you're in a place that doesn't have them, and it's just not something they're used to dealing with. I mean, the locations that you would go to drop off mission content are usually armistice zone areas in Stanton, right? So,
yeah, that's fair. There's also, I imagine, in addition, the fact that we now have 600-person servers also probably has a lot to do with this. You're going to encounter this a lot more often in general, because the ratio, I imagine, I don't have hard data, so this is purely anecdotal. The ratio that I see of people doing PvP versus PvE is less than 1 in 100, right?
Mine might be a little bit higher, but yeah, it's not very high.
That's how it's felt, at least. Yeah. So when you do have a larger group of people, you may still only have, maybe 10 people in that 600 doing PvP, but you're going to feel that more often because there's only so many locations you can go to. The other thing, obviously, is it's Pyro. Everyone wants to play Pyro. Everyone wants to play the new content. Pyro is inherently a lawless system, which means even people that do not PvP often are more incentivized to do PvP. They're more incentivized to do kill on sight, because if I don't know who SaltEMike is, although I'll probably do this anyway, I'm probably going to kill him, start him anyway. But if I don't know who SaltEMike is, and he's 100 meters away from me in a Hornet, I don't want to take the chance. I'm gonna, I'm gonna get you before you get me, right?
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of people that have that mentality. So because of that, people who are used to a PvE only environment are now essentially getting rushed with, I guess, the reality of all of those things put together.
Yeah. And the idea that, well, unfortunately they didn't finish anything. Pyro is very much the canvas and not the painting, I guess, still.
Sure.
It's, it might just be the base layer, because you don't have a lot of the reward that comes with a place like Pyro, and you have a lot of and you don't have the safety that is in stand. There's so little that is done, but they have no more excuses, is something that I would say at this point. Is the idea of turrets can be kind of scary now, but they're not scary enough, and things like that, right? There's where I will agree with something needs to change. Would you agree with that? I think something absolutely needs to change, and people need to feel safer. And I was so kind of on the fence, but I ended up leaning towards liking this. Was so if I go to a Citizens for Prosperity area and I'm aligned with headhunters, they're going to shoot at me and I can't land there. That's awesome, right?
Yep.
Take the reins. I got to sneeze.
Yeah. Alternatively, as well, we're probably going to go back and forth between points, because there is kind of a lot to say about it. But there's also the alternative of there are so many sort of mitigators in other games that solve this without really harming anyone.
Yeah.
Like for example, if Pyro is a lawless system, is a pirate haven or whatever, I feel like if I am killing someone who has, you know, high rep with the CDF, I should still be punished with the CDF, even though like no one's gonna hunt me down in Pyro. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of sort of like reputation based things that don't exist in the game yet.
Yeah.
And that I feel like could help alleviate some of these issues. And honestly, in that like example I just used, that PvP player is probably still just going to stay in Pyro the whole time anyway. But as a PvEer, if you know that that person now like has a harder time coming into Stanton, that's going to help. That's going to help your mental a little bit, I think, right?
I'm in somewhat of agreement with this, but let's touch on the fact that like griefers do exist. I don't want to pretend like they don't exist. And griefers will operate outside of any reputation or any rule. They will find whatever they can, whatever line, come right up to it. They will find whatever exploit they can use to be an annoyance of some kind, right? They just exist in video games like this. They're not going anywhere. Reputation doesn't protect them there. So
correct. But I also don't. I think a lot of people are saying they're complaining about griefing, but they're not actually.
Well, they're just getting,
you know what I mean?
Non-consensually PvP'd at Shepherd's Rest is what I believe is happening. That's not griefing.
Exactly. Yeah. So your example, of course, griefers are always going to exist. They're always going to skirt the rules for sure. I think the majority of the community isn't as like they're concerned about it, but that's not why they're mad. They're mad about the fact that they're unable to do the content
that they want
because PvP has no consequences at all, really, even in Stanton. And they're also not prepared for Pyro. In addition to that, like there is some blame on people complaining about PvP and Pyro, but it is ultimately, as always, on CIG. Of, you know, how do they want to do it? What systems do they want to put in place to make it so that the maximum amount of people are happy?
Yes. And I think the argument of these two sections of the community that are starting to fight each other, or always have, to be honest, but the casual player or the PvE player in this scenario believes that they are the significant majority of the community, and they would be right, but they believe that warrants them to have the game be built around them exclusively and only what they want, and so on and so forth, without recognizing that the idea that PvPers over here not even engaging with you can affect your gameplay and what you do on a daily basis. Like, it's literally on the loading screen. Some griefers started stealing Dedatrine, and now you have content, right? Like that's the thing that they need to get through their head, is that this doesn't just need to be designed by it's actually less fun when it's faked, and it's so much cooler when it happens via player action, right?
100%. So if we identify like the issues themselves that I think people are genuinely concerned about, it's one, not being able to do the full breadth of content, which is always going to be a concern. And I forgot the second one that I was going to mention, but that is a big one though. People saying like, you know, I want to be able to experience the other PvE content that exists in the game, right?
Okay.
Like Pyro missions.
Yeah.
You know, PvE, essentially PvE content. Obviously, you're in a PvP zone essentially, but like you are doing just NPC shooting and whatnot. Everyone wants to experience that, but they want to experience it in a way that they feel safer. The solution that people were talking about this week, and it wasn't just Montoya, it wasn't just people on Reddit. We even had people in our Answer the Call Discord, join the Answer the Call Discord, talking about it this week as well. Is like, yeah, well, what if we get PVE servers? But it creates more problems for the game as a whole than it solves. The better solution is having features in the game that allow you to feel safer or allow you to have a little bit more freedom in other locations so that you don't feel like you're missing out on as much, and it doesn't destroy sort of like this unique feeling you get in MMOs, right?
Yeah, like the part that I struggle with is that the reason that they feel this way is the sheer lack of a focus on the game that CIG has had over the years, right? So it's the second you release Pyro, you want to go to Pyro, you want to see all the new shiny things or ugly things because it's Pyro, right? And nothing is shiny there. But the idea of exactly what you said, I want to go do the missions there. The events that they have chosen are not engaging with Stanton at all. I went on a complete rant with both Elliot and Phil and people that are involved definitely in this next event. And I wonder if I'm, for the first time ever, I think I might have had a little impact on something. We'll see. There's some missions still in the PTU that are very much in Stanton that make sense. But I'm trying to get to the point where we use Eve as an example a lot, and there are people who spend time in high sec and that's what they do. And there's people that spend time in low sec and that's what they do. And there's people that spend time in wormholes and so on and so on and so forth, right? Much more finished product. Star Citizen is not a finished product. It's like if Eve only had one system and you couldn't jump out of it and everybody was just in there together. And they were never meant to be in there together, right? Like, we're not meant to be together. And that's the argument that people are making, and they're right. But the solution is not PVE servers. The solution is we're engaging in the same game world together, but not right next to each other, rubbing shoulders, right? It's you're basically signing on your waiver when you go into Pyro saying, I can't complain about this stuff, right? But they're not able to do that because the only event is literally in Pyro. So the only content that is being developed in the game that has no content is in a place where people are going to get PK'd all the time. And that's what they're freaking out about, is there's no side of this mission where it can be completed elsewhere. And that's the part that you're like, you literally feel forced towards it, and you shouldn't feel forced. You should be enticed, but you should never feel forced, and that's a big problem that they're making as well.
I want to point out, just because it's been brought up in both chats a little bit, I am still very much in favor of them doing the whole stability thing this year.
Yes,
this is not a conversation about that. That is still like priority number one, at least for me.
Me too,
and hopefully most of you out there as well. This is just like this is a conversation that's going to keep happening. Especially with, like Mike was just saying, the content that they're focusing on right now, this mission content is all Pyro based.
Yeah.
So this conversation is going to keep happening. We're going to see more reactions of this stuff. I don't think it's going to kill the game or anything, but it's something that we're going to have to learn about once we do start getting back into features again.
Yeah. And the other thing is I made the argument that you don't even have to add any new features to fix a lot of these problems. Is just you want to make a PVE server. Why don't we test something else? Why don't we just test the moment you turn red at a station and they got it, like, okay, fix the bug where I randomly turn red for no reason at all. You want to do your stability and fix this stuff. Fix the bug that I randomly turn red, and then turn those station turrets, and they're literally one-shotting people. I also, this would be probably a new feature, is if your weapons are turned on and you're near a station, you have 10 seconds to turn them off. We literally have engineering mechanics now. I can click a button on my screen and turn my weapons off. Like, these kind of things should exist in the game today. We've talked about Eve a lot. Tethering to a station should 100% be a thing. Space Cull has literally been talking about this for 10 years, as far as I'm aware. Like, these are things that they have refused to do, and these are things that this is where my anger is directed. My anger isn't directed at people who kill me at Shepherd's Rest, as frustrating as it is when you're trying to do an event, right? Like, it's brutal. And I had some fun with it, but I've not had fun with it, and it sucks. So, like, I know where people are coming from, but my anger is directed at, you have the ability to solve some of these problems, and you have done nothing with that in 4.0. You have 30 FPS servers. These turrets are able to be more dangerous. Let's go. And
you have 600-person servers now. Like, it matters way more now. Like, it's going to impact people a lot more. If we get back into that era that they said of, like, new player acquisition, make the game stable, then we'll get new players. Well, those new players are going to have the exact same problems that we're hearing from some people right now.
Yep.
And whether they're wrong or right, that will turn them away from the game.
Yeah.
So having any sort of solution in place before that is an absolute must.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we can talk about this whole like, oh, the economy and this and that. And when like I would love to see a world where if there's tons of bounties being done in Stanton, then that impacts something that's going on in the game world of, you know, we keep talking about this dynamic economy thing. Well, if NPC ships are constantly being destroyed, well, those NPC ships need to be rebuilt, and those NPC ships need their components rebuilt and all that stuff. And hopefully there's a player economy as well, but you can make dynamic, you could tell the stories of the world through PvE content as well, right? And just based on and the PvE content that isn't made up in the background like this Dedatrine thing. It's the hey, around Hurston there is a spike in bounties, so it's safer, and this is how, you know, they can tell these stories that we're creating, and people just want to tell their own story, and it's like I mean, Elite Dangerous is there for you, right? Like that you can do that. And what did Elite Dangerous have to do to counter? Is they had to make this insane grind because you had no risk of losing ever, right? Or they made really difficult enemies that you had to do an insane grind to get the stuff to actually like. There was always this super time gated things, and I think to the point where it shied me away from what is probably a really good game. Right? Yeah. And is that what you want? That's what you're asking for. So that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah. What I'm kind of hoping happens, especially with this new event, that like, you know, this is going to happen a lot. Like there's going to be a lot of PvP, is that some people realize that, you know, so for the new event, if those of you out there don't know, you basically have like 3 different options for how to finish these missions, and you do have to grind quite a few of them. You can mine for some materials, you can salvage for some materials, or you can go to depots and buy the materials, buy the boxes.
No place to buy depots, ice, as far as I'm aware, though. Just to be clear.
Yeah, I think you're right there. But either way, those are the 3, right? The levels, and you can choose your missions. So the depots are kind of like mini jump towns. And I say that because there's quite a few of them across the planets. But once again, we are at 600 people, not 100 people when we last ran Jump Town. So they have PvE when you get there, first off. Then you have to like buy the items, put them onto your ship and get out. And obviously that's going to take time. In that time, people can come and try to steal it from you, right? I am hoping some players that are you know, a little bit PO'd off at like this aspect of like, oh, I have to PvP for everything, can take some of this and be like, all right, well, I can go and mine, I can go and salvage. Alternatively, while everyone's at these mini jump towns, these other locations should hopefully be a little bit more sparse, and I can experience that content. I want people to experience that always. In every other MMO, there are always opportunities, usually. Maybe not every MMO, but most MMOs, there are opportunities usually where a big group of PvP is going to be happening at some other bit of content, meaning that the place that you would normally get ganked or whatever it is a little bit quieter, and you have that chance to experience it. And I love when that happens. So in Eve, which is maybe the 5th time we brought it up today, I don't do a lot of PvP in Eve, except for like wormhole PvP. So what I do when I play it is I track, you know, how much PvP is going on in these nullsec locations in the last like few days. Oh, well, there's a war going on over this side of that system, so no one's over here. I can go experience nullsec by myself fairly uninterrupted, right? But it's still a little risky, and it's that really small risk. It's like, you know, that gets your blood rushing, and I'm hoping that other players can experience that.
Yeah, and then the whole other thing of I'll continue to say this is you cannot praise CIG for anything that they said at CitizenCon 2024 and then ask for a PVE server. You are counter and the letter for the chairman and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're just contradicting yourself, and it's just not. It doesn't make any sense.
You're also contradicting what CRG are saying they want the game to be.
Exactly.
Like it's
you're trying to take your large community and shit. Like I guess I'm in a way calling him out, and I don't really mean that. But
yeah. No, I will say you want to criticize CRG if they make decisions you don't agree with.
Of course, I do it all day, right?
It is that's your job.
Yeah,
it is
sadly
clear and has been very clear, especially recently, that CRG do want this to be a PvEVP world, bigger in general universe. So where is, like, if you are a person that wants a PvE server, you shouldn't be asking for a PvE server. You should be asking, where do I fit in that world, and make that the thing, because that's gonna, like, you will have a much better time in that universe than you will in just everyone's PvE. There's no risk.
Or
like, who cares?
you have a much better time if you have that mentality, and that is the mentality of, this is where I belong because this is where my content is that I enjoy, and instead of I deserve everything. Again, the bringing up the contested zone PvP thing. These people had no idea about, like, they're arguing about nothing. Because they're arguing that all this content is locked behind all this stuff, and it's like, bro, just go buy the Class B stuff at Orson and you're done. You literally have all the stealth mechanic, everything that you could possibly want. The only thing you don't get is NDBs. That's it. But you literally got Ardor Repeater. Like, your PvE content is saved. Just chill. And they were arguing without having any comprehensive understanding of the game whatsoever. But they want the game to change for them. And it's like, guys, you were not affected by this at all, but PvP content finally had something that they can do. And imagine being so hateful or so miserable or so whatever you are, to not look at any of that and recognize that it was like, oh, they're giving them a little bone, and I have had my bone forever. So it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yep. But, the last point that I want to make is like,
and then we'll go to callers for callers.
Because I watched the end of you reacting to the video.
Yeah.
Was the whole, like, and you brought this up, to be fair, the point that I'm about to make was like, well, they can just do it during testing. We already have issues right now. They do with Evocardi, right?
Yeah.
But we already have issues right now of people being split between live and PTU, and the issues that then comes in with like bug fixing and stuff.
I did not make this point. This is a very good point.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. If you then split it again, if you split that player base again and you put them into their PVE servers right now, it won't work, and then they'll can PVE servers. Yeah.
How do you test concurrency? Like, you're literally actively fighting against making the game good when you make these arguments, and it's just the I deserve mentality that's just got to go. And I don't think people understand that I want to mine and salvage, and I don't want to shoot at anybody, and I don't want my heart racing all the time, at all. But when I do want that, I want it to be meaningful, and I want it to, if I want to take the risk, that I do get the reward. And I also, since playing, Eve mentioned number 1000 today, since playing Eve, I understand why losing your stuff is so important, and that getting caught up in, this is my ship with, that is a mentality that if it doesn't change, we're going to be playing Elite, and Elite is probably a really good game, but I always wanted to play something else. I don't know what Star Citizen is going to be. I mean,
I will tell you why. Like, I tried, like, just a little off topic. I tried playing Elite.
Elite, you lose your shit too, by the way.
It was, exactly. It was cool. I will say, some of the best mining mechanics of any game ever.
Yes.
But the whole, like, appeal of Elite was the exploration, and it is the most mind-numbing, boring AFK shit in the world.
But you're the only person to ever explore that location,
I
Croncy.
don't care, because everything looks terrible. And, like, that's another thing. Like the planets look garbage, right? Like, they don't have detail to them. Of course they don't, because they're generating billions of these things.
But the sound, and I think the
sound was
feel,
great.
the way the feel of a ship felt really good. Maybe not for like high-end PvP and stuff, but it just felt good. I love the way the quantum mechanic basically worked, right? Where you would be flying the ship but moving really fast. So there's a lot of stuff that I liked about the game, but it couldn't keep me engaged in the way that player interaction would.
Exactly. There's no way that I can grind that game. I just can't. It's too boring. I can grind Star Citizen right now, just doing like mercenary missions, and that's still not great. But
no, like I did cargo hauling this week, and I was like, why am I doing? Like I was like, I see my rep going up, and I see that I'm getting another mission, but it doesn't feel impactful, and I'm just like, why am I doing this grind now? I'm going to wait until there's a reason to do this grind. So when I do it, it feels good. I don't want to do it and already know how to do it perfectly. I want to go through it. And I just was like, yeah, I'm good. But you're
one last note, which is I think it's important to remember the 1.0 goal of having the 5 systems.
Yeah.
When we have that, you can split the players a little bit more into their
a lot more
like intended roles and whatnot. Like if I remember correctly, and someone in chat might correct me, but the way that those 5 systems are connected, Terra is a lawful system that is only connected to Stanton, which is a lawful system, I believe. And I don't think you can get to I don't think you can go from Terra with the 5 systems. I don't think you can go from Terra to Pyro or to Nyx, if I remember correctly. So things like that, like Terra will become a PvE system. It just will. Like over time, I imagine that's how that will evolve, right?
I hope it's a weapons
off system. At least I hope it does. Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe not entirely.
Maybe not weapons off, but like
around the city or something
extra. Yeah.
Yeah, not weapons
Pyro's connected to all 4. Never mind. Disregard. Either way, the first point though of splitting, like everyone will be the roles will be more split between the 5 is going to be a much bigger thing.
Yeah.
Castra, meanwhile, is going to be the PVE PvP powerhouse of the cell.
I don't know what Nyx is going to be either. It'll be kind of interesting how they play all this out. But the idea here, I hope, is you did bring up reputation, and I don't think it's enough of a deterrent for somebody like I mentioned griefing. It might be a deterrent for somebody who is trying to engage in piracy or something like that, right? That might want to actually spend some time in the system and play within the game systems. But what I really hope reputation does is go, I'm doing rep in Terra. That's what that's where my gameplay, that's my grind right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm building rep here and I'm getting these cool things. And if my rep is the highest in Terra, I get this, where the guy who is, doing piracy in Pyro, he doesn't get that stuff because he can't do that rep or doesn't want to. And then what happens is, again, the symbiotics of, well, if I'm able to now craft this Pyro-based shield, but that shield is some sort of meta for some sort of thing, then all of a sudden the guy who's doing the content in Terra is affecting a war that's happening in Pyro for the shields or whatever, right? So it's just like,
which to a lot of us, that's the coolest thing, right? Like, yeah.
Look at this. This person who's doing this, all of these things, should not have to always be at risk of engaging in PvP. They should make the choice if they do or not, right? The hauler choice should have paths that are dangerous and paths that are not. And the dangerous paths should be more rewarding in some ways, and the not so dangerous paths should be more rewarding in others. And it's just, we need to have player choice. And that's what we don't have, is we're not allowing enough player choice because the events are going on in Pyro and the new stuff is in Pyro and they've been in Stanton for literally 7 years, right? Those are the problems here. And people just refuse to admit that, or, it's just, I don't know. But you want to hear from people? Hopefully we have some pro PvE people, because I think it'll just be a pro PvP rant the whole time, but
Or just people that have different takes in any regard, really.
At the very least, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll get to callers as we're getting to callers. If you want to call in to the Answer the Call podcast, !podcast in Mike's chat, or it is linked up the top there in YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's bring in PepicWalrus. Hello.
I hate PVEers.
I knew it.
Oh, here we go.
So I'm having deja vu being a longtime Sea of Thieves player. This conversation has.
I was gonna say, I didn't mention Sea of Thieves once, but this exact conversation happened a couple of years ago.
It's happened. It happened through all of its lifetime, and eventually Sea of Thieves did add Safer Seas. However, that's not really PVE servers. It's like a private instance where you're alone on it. Your reputations are capped. Like your gauge are capped, end game content is blocked off, but it was also released 5 years into a fully released game.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get to the 1.0 before even considering private servers, See, because at the moment, Sea of Thieves, you can have more tools to kind of prepare yourself. Like, you can see somebody coming 5-10 minutes away your direction. You can decide to get out. Sea of Thieves needs, or Star Citizen needs tools to let people, like, even if it's like, hey, I can turn on my ship's radar just to send out periodic pings, and it'll spike my emissions up so people can see my ship rather than it just being off. But it will feed to my HUD if I'm in like 5 kilometers away from it to be to let, it's picked up somebody coming my way. So it's like, we need more tools to let people know when to get out. And then like the heat map idea, I think that's very good about like, hey, this area is pretty hot. You can tie that into comma rays, and if those are turned off, then it won't be visible.
Yeah, it adds extra, like it gives you those tools to if you want to be safer, it gives you those tools to be safer, but also adds in extra gameplay for everyone in addition to that, right? Like it adds a whole lot to the feeling of the game. One thing I want to touch on, you mentioned just before heat maps, which I don't remember the exact words were, but one thing I do love about EVE Online, a game we never mentioned, is if you are in a high-sec system and a criminal enters the system, a broadcast is sent to everyone in the system. Oh, Billy Bob, we'll get ya because you're a criminal. The comlink system exists, right? In Star Citizen, we have in the past gotten voice lines from NPCs during like Ninetales lockdown and stuff. It would be great to hear, the CDF is alerting people that a CS5, is currently in Stanton, whatever, and it's like, all right, well, I need to play a little bit safer, right?
Adding tools that add gameplay to both.
This is the threat map on the star map, by the way. So this mechanic does exist in their minds, in their design book somewhere, that these things could be communicated to players. Now, the threat map is anywhere you would actually play, there appears to be a threat, and that is the exact problem, right? What we're seeing on the screen is exactly what people are arguing and is the problem.
They made that like a decade ago, and it's still accurate. Amazing.
Right? Crazy. But this is what would probably need to change, and hopefully we see something like this. I actually had a long conversation on my stream yesterday or day before about that you can actually see like who kills you now, and the problem is you can also see if they're killing NPCs near you, so like in a CZ zone if there's somebody ahead of you and stuff, and it's like without ever hearing them, so it's kind of broken at the moment. I think it's like pretty exploiting and silly. Like kill mails and Eve and things like that let you know like, oh, in my system in the last hour there were 200 kills. I'm not going to go to that system is a mechanic that I think is incredibly useful and good. So
there are also just some problems that you need to consider when thinking about PVE servers, like a full PVE server, is like back when 4.0 just came out, I remember seeing on the Reddit for the contested zone Ghost Arena, an org had people just lined up in front of the elevator so nobody could get in. It's like, That's,
yeah.
we got to deal with that at the moment with armistice zones. But if they get rid of armistice zones, you could just shoot one of them and then run in quickly before the.
I would say that probably has other problems that it would involve, but
definitely.
that is an aspect, like, that is griefing. If you're just like physically human blocking an elevator, you can't argue that that's not griefing.
But
that sort of stuff needs some solutions. They don't happen very often, but when they do, it's sure to be posted on Reddit, and I see them all the time. Like there was one where someone managed to put just like 4 SCU boxes of 4 SCU, just entirely like on the floor in where the ASOP terminals are. It's like, great, I just can't get out of here. That sort of stuff. I mean, CIG surely recognized that as like, no, this is like big priority. This is like someone griefing type fixes. But once again, I don't think the conversation for today, I think, is a little bit different than those examples.
Yep. But yeah, Star Citizen, like the systems, there just needs to be, Terra should be Weenie Hut Jr. safe place, and then Pyro can be Salty Spittoon. Danger. And then Stanchion and Nyx can kind of be the middle area, then Castra can be the like PvE VP Brawlathon.
I am so excited for Castra. It is going to be the scariest system to do things at, just because I want to leave Castra. All right, you're gonna die.
The way I see the systems is Terra's like the super safe zone. Nyx and Stanchion are kind of mirrors to each other. Like Stanchion's the lawful system, and then Nyx is like the lawless mirror of it. And then Castra and Pyro are like the lawless and lawful mirrors of each other. Is what I think it should be.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay, sounds good. And thanks for your call. And some good points. But this is going to be a tough one. I might not read the comments today.
Yeah, it's got to be.
As a once again, guys, it was a slow week. All right. We
had to just wait until supplier die, because people are still going to complain that they couldn't do it without PvE encounters. Yeah,
and they'll have died once at checkmate instead of the other 100 times they dropped off. But yeah. So
all right, see you.
Awesome.
All right, Pepic, be
Cheers.
good. All right, bye now. All right, our next caller is Frosty. Frosty, hello.
Hey.
Hello. Right then. For me personally, I don't really care. It's I've got into PvE and PvP. It's just how it is. I'm more leaning to PvP because PvE, because that's how I've spent most of my time in Star Citizen since 2018. So it's whatever. But the thing is with like Pyro, etc., is we all know it's a null sec system. The issue is reputation is a major issue with Pyro at the moment, because if you look at the stations, and I've asked this question to Zach, but he's just basically ignored me, is all the stations are basically owned by Rough and Ready when they're not supposed to be.
No, they are supposed to be. That got like errated a couple of years ago. They are operated by Rough and Ready, but there are still massive parts of the stations that are owned by the other factions. For example, Xenothreat owned like half of what's Terminus Station, Ruin Station, which is why the CZ is Xenothreat. The Pyro Rats own one of them. I don't remember which one it is. Possibly Checkmate.
That's Obituary. I can't remember.
Maybe Obituary. Anyway, Obituary, and then there's one other. There's one other faction that I just don't think we know much about. So they still control like half the station. That's the CZs, right?
Which for a gameplay point with like contestants on and like that's fine. But what I'm talking about in a broader sense of gameplay is you have reputation that affects the the outposts. If you go to if you've got negative rep with CFP,
they're not hanging around it. They're not deciding whether or not you can land, right?
Yeah, but with the stations, the Rough and Ready is kind of like this neutral faction within Pyro. It doesn't feel right. You can land at any station, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not about, it's not really about, you know, people doing PvP and PvE, whatever. It's the systems not either not being there to properly support this gameplay, or has been left to rot like the law system has.
I would understand it more if they owned Starlight, Gaslight, Megumi, and I forget one of the other ones, but because they're kind of the people who control the fuel, and those are kind of like the gas station stops, right? Where these are like the big hubs. Where I do think that they should be somewhat safe, because there are no planet-based economic centers. These would be the economic centers in the system, and maybe it's just one of them or something. I don't know, but
this would tie into my PvP thing. Yeah. This would tie into my PvP. If you had proper like faction stations, it's like if you you know, say, you know, you're say if I'm part of CFP and you attack me, you get negative rep or whatever, and you get more rep with, say, headhunters, etc. They're not going to do anything. But if you need to go to a station, you know, that's near, you know, a CFP one, but obviously you need fuel, etc. You can't go to that station, but at the moment you can go to any one of them. But then broadly it comes back to, you know, with the terror stuff, you know, that's a high sec system. But I will say I don't agree with the, like, you need, you know, they should turn the weapons off. I think it should be a localized thing, like with the stations, you know, and you know, even in Stanton,
I pulled back on that very quickly.
Even in Stanton, it's a mid sec. You know, you have the choice. You know, you can turn off comm arrays, and you know you can you know, shoot people. But it comes to all it comes down is, I think it should be choice, and you should have the consequences. But the consequences are not there. That's the issue, and that's on COG.
And some of the choices aren't there either. Like the choice of being in a very safe area doesn't really exist, with the exception of armistice zones. So like I think that's where a lot of the some of the hate comes from people, is the fact that they cannot play the game without the risk of PvP at all. And it's like, there should, like, maybe that should be the case, and I probably am actually a fan of that always being the case. There is always a risk, but right now, because like you said, there are no consequences, the risk is kind of always just uniform, of like, whatever I do, that risk is exactly the same, you know?
Yeah, it's just in general with SE anyway, there's breadth to it, but there's just no depth to these systems, because they haven't touched them in so long, and that needs to change. And you know, the people going on about, you know, they need to get to, you know, player counts that are MMO size, etc. But you know, if we have thousands of people and these systems are still the same, how's that going to look? You know, it's just not going to be a fun experience. And it all comes back to what they're doing this year. It should be, they need to look at these systems as well, and not just focus on stability, because it's all for well and good, you know, being bugless, but if the gameplay and, you know, these things are still continuing on, and you're not updating these things to get it to a gold standard, then what's the point? You know, and you can have all these systems and all these things, but if you don't have the right gameplay systems in place, then, you know, the game isn't a game. Just like it is now, it's not a game. But until they, you know, buckle down and get these systems in place while they're doing all these, you know, events and all this stuff, it's not going to feel like it. Right now, it's not. It doesn't feel like a game. It's like, I think 2 days ago, I was doing one of the phase 3 missions, you know, on Bloom, I think, and you know, I think it was a Corsair come and blew me up. You know, I got out of my ship safely, but the guy came over and just shot me. It's like, whatever, you know, it's pyro. I knew that's going to happen, but people expect, you know, for some reason to, you know, to have, you know, humility when it's a game. You know, people are going to be dicks at the end of the day, but you know, the systems aren't there. Say if you did that in a, you know, in Stanton, you should be, you know, depending on the comm array, you should get rushed by NPCs. But again, that system isn't there. And the same with, you know, Terra. You should get swarmed in Terra if you did that, you know. But again, it comes back to the gameplay possibility. If you did that in Terra and you managed to get away, you know, you should have bounty hunter, like NPCs. There's your PVE, and then obviously you've got the other side where players can take that opportunity to come and get you. That's your PVP. Sorry, you know, again, that game should be for both, and that's what they said with the presentation. You know, at CitizenCon, but they're just not there. And this is going to be an argument until those systems are there for them to provide that scenario, if you know what I mean.
But we still have to fix the game first.
Yes, fixing the game is still a priority.
Fix the game.
But we need a topic for this week. Is going to be my recurring sort of theme. It does make me excited though, kind of what you were saying there, Frosty, with the announcement of the roadmap that they're doing next week. If we start to see, because we know that some features still getting worked on. If any of those social features that we got that they talked about CitizenCon are anywhere near, us at the moment, which the answer is probably not, but I think a lot of those sort of social features can also help resolve a lot of the issues that some of these players are having, honestly, from both sides. With you also feel like you're alone. If you are a PvE player and you just get ganked, you can go and talk in global chat and be like, hey, can someone help me? Much easier for you to start up a group and be like, safe mining squad. We're gonna get everyone in prospectors and we're gonna go over to this one location with escorts and stuff. Those systems come into place and make it a lot better.
All I'm saying is just don't let the systems rot while you're doing this. It needs to be looked at as well in parallel. But also on the roadmap stuff, I think they're doing away with Drake's, one patch in front. I think they're just going to show the whole thing because obviously
they specifically said what is coming in 4.1 and 4.0.2
and beyond.
They said and beyond. Interesting.
And beyond. So I think they're doing away with the one patch forward thing. Because obviously there's going to be no features. There's no
features to tie to a roadmap release date. They're not doing that.
I know, but
what they might say is there will be a test preview of this feature, but that's it, right?
Will be, but
possibly.
We'll see next week. But that's all I've got to say, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Easy.
Well, thank you, Frosty.
Yeah, no worries.
And sorry, I was a little distracted. I was getting kicked out of my Eve Corp for being inactive, even though I play every day. So I was like, what is going on?
Because they're watching
here?
the podcast. It's this guy plays Star Citizen. Get him out of here.
What do you mean I'm inactive? I literally play it more than I play Star Citizen. What are you talking about? All right, I just misclicked Frosty out of there, so my bad. But the next caller is Kurupt. Kurupt, you're still muted. Can you hear us? Unmute if you can hear us, Kurupt. Kurupt going once. Kurupt going twice. There he is.
Whoop. You there?
Kurupt.
You are unmuted, but we can't hear you. And neither can Discord.
Bye,
we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back if we can.
Next is ZombieLord. ZombieLord, are you paying attention?
Doing, ZombieLord? You are muted currently.
Sorry, it automatically does
there we
it.
go.
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yay,
Fantastic.
we got one.
So I pretty much exclusively play PvE. I don't do too much of the PvP. When I do, it has to be with my friends just because I pretty much exclusively use the Tavaran ships. I don't really like the design of a lot of the other ships. So the Shrike, the Talon, and the Prowler, I own all three of them, never getting rid of them.
Nice.
Very cool. So with the PvE, I find them to be exceptionally good because of their stealth capabilities. I use the Prowler for heavy hitting and the Talon for overall just combat.
Yeah.
I find that it's not fun, or not, let's say not fun, but when I'm trying to do like a cargo mission or something small where I can fit it inside the Prowler or something, where I'm sitting there minding my own business and then somebody sees me looting this caterpillar that I ended up destroying and it just comes in and wipes me out. Nothing I can do about it. I mostly only play in Stanton as well. So when it comes to Stanton, I can't there's not too much I can do to stop this.
Yeah.
When it comes to the PvP side, I think that it would be a little bit better if we had cheaper missiles would be nice. But I think that a rework to the crime stat system would be almost necessary.
It's been the bane of everyone's. It just never works properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That for me is part of fixing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
over the next
topic
year,
of-
I hope that's really one of their priorities.
Yeah.
Well, on that topic, I've already seen a vast improvement in how stable the game's been. Just in the couple weeks with their hot fixes. I try to stay out of Pyro.
Resets have been helpful too.
Yeah, I try to stay out of Pyro just because I had this one glitch that wouldn't let me leave Pyro.
Oh, nice.
Every time I would try to go through the Stanton Gate, it would shoot me out a good 100 kilometers away from the Stanton Gate in Pyro, and I'm like, I can't leave. I did the phase 3, and I'm like, cool, I'm done. I want to go back to Pyro now. Or to Stanton now because I like the area. But now I can't leave. So I've been trying. I reset the thing and went back to Stanton. But I've been one of their harshest critics. Not you guys haven't heard from me before, but a lot of my friend groups, they're really big sympathizers for the developers and the game overall. I don't give them any slack or anything because of the amount of money they've made and the amount of time that they've had. I know that there are some excuses in the past, but I mean,
there's no denying that time has been wasted.
I feel that there's not much of a good excuse to have the game in the state that it is currently.
Yep.
So when they had that live stream last week, or a week or so ago, about saying that they're focusing on stability, they hit on every single thing that I've been complaining about in that stream.
Yeah.
So when it comes to complaining, I'm going to give them the year. I'm not going to complain about anything until I see what's going on. I've already seen a big improvement on the stability of the servers, as well as lately, these last couple days, the elevators have been working perfectly fine.
On PTU, they're interesting. They show up empty, but like Benoit had explained, that they will eventually show up. So they are going to break, but they are going to eventually show up. So you hit the button, you don't like the elevator door opened. This happened to me consistently in 4 different landing zones as well. Because I had recopied a bunch of times for a reason. But the elevator door would open, it'd be empty. I press the button again, it might be empty the second time, and then it would show up. When I got into the elevator instead of where I was going, it would open up while I was moving in the elevator into nothing space, and then it wouldn't open when I got to the location. It is still a fucking horrible experience, but it worked. I was not trapped. And that's a start, but not the expectations have to be higher than that.
Yeah, I haven't had too much issue with the elevators the last week or so. They come when they're called. It might take a little bit longer than expected, but they come, they're there. I get to the hangar. My issue with that has been the hangar's been eating my ships.
Yeah.
I'll
on
come
live
in
or
after I
PTU?
spawn it in. I'm in live. I don't like touching the PTU because I have to download the whole extra thing and I don't have the space.
Yeah, that's fine. Just to totally counter what you're experiencing is the org mate that I showed that was the top of that Regolith list was freaking out because he couldn't get out of the station that he was in. So it's luck of the draw how things are working on live.
Yeah, I guess I've just gotten really lucky. But I know the other day somebody couldn't get out of the hangars because the elevators weren't working for them, but for some reason it was working for me.
Yeah.
And I came and picked him up, gave him a ride to somewhere else that he needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now to bring it back to the topic. So you said you're a mostly PvE player. You identified an issue that does sound like it is like it echoes with a lot of other people, right?
Yeah.
And you have identified you do prioritize stability. Awesome.
100%.
So forgetting all that, with that problem that you had, what would you prefer? Not necessarily what would you prefer. What would your preferred fix in general be for that bad experience?
Most likely 100% the crime stat system. I don't mind that the guy shows up and kills me. People are going to do that. That's going to happen. One, I would say if I wanted to do PvE or a PvP like that, and I wanted to be a nuisance and cause issues with other people, I would like the crime stat system to be completely erased. Just because if I kill the person who, if I attack somebody, do a crime, and there's nobody else to see it, I shouldn't have a crime stat. And if I do, you can put a bounty on me, but not the Stanton crime system.
Okay.
When it comes to me personally, I think the crime system's really good, but I think there should be more of a deterrence for people to do crime in general. I would like to see AIs patrolling, something like that, over than just the knowing that you'll go to prison for a little bit.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What that is up for them to figure out.
Yeah.
Is how I look at it.
Yeah. And what that isn't is a PVE server.
Yeah. I don't want a PVE server because it adds some spice to the life.
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I had.
All right, Zombie.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate the call. It was good fun.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one.
We'll catch around soon. Catch you, mate.
Bye now. All right, we're going to try Kurupt one more time. Kurupt, are you there?
Hey, guys.
Perfect.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, Mike. So I'm a PVA guy.
A PV what?
PVA. I do a little bit of both.
Your glue?
PvP and PVE.
Isn't PVA glue?
PVA and
is that a glue?
PvP and PVE.
Okay.
I do both.
Gotcha.
Where I have a problem, because I'm also a testy, and Montoya is our glorious leader, so to speak.
Yeah.
Completely disagree.
Okay.
Because I think what needs to happen once we get through this whole stability year is they need to bring in the NPC 10-to-1 ratio. That balances a lot of things out, in my opinion, because PvPers have to go search for us. And if they've got to go search for us, it makes them put in work. Any good cargo hauler or miner, anything like that, should be concentrating on how to stay difficult to find.
Okay. How does more NPCs make that happen?
Because if they've got to go hunt, if we add in NPCs, so NPCs become pirates, we get attacked by pirates.
Okay.
As NPCs. That also means that we're going to be adding NPC cargo haulers, NPC miners.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to go hunt them in order to find us.
I don't like. So I agreed with your previous reasoning of like, all of those things need to happen. I don't necessarily agree that the 10-to-1 thing solves that. Mostly because player behavior will be very different to NPC behavior. And if you know the player behavior, it will not be harder for you to find players. You know what I mean?
But
I just want the game to be more organic. Like, I feel like it takes a lot of the organic nature of the game out. If it's this constant NPC, and it's like, don't you want to see players coming and going from stations? Don't you want to see a minefield and you go to it and it's a bunch of mining lasers and it's all players? There could be some NPCs, maybe, but
I've got to.
Maybe I'm just not understanding the
where
point.
those are at. I got to know. You showed that heat marker earlier.
Sure.
That makes perfect sense to have.
Okay.
It also says, okay, here's NPC activity.
Correct.
These people are getting killed, so I'm going to stay away from there and go do this.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think the distraction for an attraction is where the PvP crowds would find these nice little red and white dots. That's where you're going to find them. Go somewhere else. Be smart enough to know you got to go somewhere else. And I think a lot of these people who are complaining about PvP and being griefed don't understand that. You got to put in work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There, again, I keep bringing up I go to Shepherd's Rest and then I put up my hands and go, I can't believe I just got killed.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
the guy putting the steel pipe in his wheel.
I do the same thing, but at the same time, I'm also building a commodities route that makes it very difficult for me to find me, because I'm not following those YT videos making $5 million in an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing the same thing when I do my salvaging content. I'm doing it at like literally one of the worst stations. Like there's no reason for anybody to ever be there. And the only time I got attacked, it was 1000% a stream snipe. And it is what it is because I'm streaming my location. But that is the only reason that anyone would have ever gone there looking to kill somebody, because nobody would be there. And yeah, so I understand your point. I just don't see how NPCs play that much into a role, because Star Citizen's just really big, and it comes down to, I think that we're in the same POV, is if you want to avoid PvP, don't go to hotspots where players are. Right.
Yeah.
And that if you do want PvP, then go to hotspots where players are. Or if you do want to do PvE stuff, but you want to take the risk to get the best reward, you understand what you're signing up for. So I think we're on the same page. It's just, for me, the NPC thing is distracting from the point, I guess.
You take steps like, if you want to go out into the void and find something to do on your own and rarely ever get attacked, put in stealth components and be so far away from everybody else that you're never going to get found.
Yeah. A lot of those things are available to people right now. There still needs to be more. There still needs to be more systems for people to be able to use to avoid these sorts of things. Once again, I don't necessarily think the 10-to-1 thing will solve that issue, though I do want to say I do want to see more NPCs in the verse, period. I want to see cargo haulers and stuff regardless. Maybe not 10-to-1, but something. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, those hotspots only come about when NPC players are being killed at that level. If you go purely PvP and monitoring that, those dots are going to be so small.
Well, hold on. There's a number of different things here, and we can tie into this. There's an economy, and then there's population. So you could just make it NPC deaths or kills and player kills, right? So you could take a look.
How do you do that in a place? Because in my mind, that requires comm stations, and you can't do that in Pyro because there are no comms. Get that bullshit
out of your mind. Like this is one thing that, like, okay, some decisions CIG thought were good ideas in their alpha game that never existed may not be perfect. They might have sounded cool, but if you want a system like this to exist, I don't want to say get this out of your mind, because we have examples of where this works. Where did you say you do a lot of PvP, Croncy and Eve? Where did you say?
Wormholes.
Is there a local in wormholes? Only if you talk in chat, right? So you don't know where anyone is. You don't have any information on what's going on in a system like that.
Yeah, it's purely on scan. That's it.
Yep, that could be Pyro. That could be Pyro.
Okay.
But
very good point.
If we're using Stanton as an example, that should be the safer place. I don't think a comm rate being turned on, turned off, I don't know if that's the best system in the world. And I think sometimes we should simplify things, maybe. And I don't know if it should go away. I'm not saying it should or if it shouldn't. But I think what we should try to get out of is the mentality of these legacy things that were made in a game that doesn't exist and never existed, or that is finally becoming what it wants to be. Some of those ideas may be old, and some of those ideas maybe work, maybe don't work. But I do think that the Comrade system is cool. I think it could be cool. I think it fucking sucks right now, but it could be cool.
Yeah.
So.
Very good point. I'm going to wrap up. Magic the Gathering, I used to love my discard hand deck like crazy.
Yep.
Y'all have a good one.
Well, you'll be happy to know one of the best decks in Standard right now is a discard deck. So
nice.
Yeah. Just while you're here, I had one more point, which is just because it's like sort of relation to what you were saying, which is I would love to see. You know how we used to get those like CIG kind of heat maps, but they were just like, here is all the stats from an event, right? Here's all the stats from an event or whatever.
Yeah.
I would love to see, here are a bunch of stats from Pyro and Stanton since the release of 4.0.
Stop
How
lying.
many people have been died to players?
Stop
How many
lying.
people have died to NPCs? So
Yes.
that would be great.
Yep. What is the percentage of players killed versus players undocking from a station or something like that? What is your
yeah, exactly.
Like, what is the percentage of players being killed?
Successfully escaping.
I imagine it's much lower than people are saying. I would love to just drop the hammer and just be done with the
three people have died in Stanton since 4.0. All of them made a Reddit post.
Yeah. I want the anecdotes to stop and the truth to come out. I think that's a good point, Croncy, for sure. All right, Kurupt, we'll let you go though, man. Good call.
Have a good one, y'all.
Cheers.
Catch you later.
Catch up.
All right, we're on to our next caller, who is Blazemonger. And just to be aware, Covalschi is going to be our last caller. Dad boy, I see you're in the green room, but we had a full lot today, and we said me and Croncy were like, we are going 1 hour today. I'm tired. I don't want to go 2 hours.
We can't help ourselves. We just like talking.
But I mean, it's a fun topic. I just didn't think we would dive into it this much, but we did. So welcome, Blaze. How you doing,
Hey,
Blaze?
how's things today, guys?
Very good. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
Yeah, good. I think this is actually a topic that's interesting for me. At least I find it interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I am very much a PVE focused player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you play a lot of Eve, right?
Yes, but for me, I absolutely do not want to see PvE only servers. I think that's really the worst thing that CRG could do, like ever. Separating PvE and PvP is not a good idea. What I would like to see, in short, is one feeding into the other and making it so that the PvE player has a purpose in the game which feeds into something that a PvE player needs or wants.
Yep.
Which makes the PvE player valuable outside of just shooting them.
Can you give a description of what that might look like in a game like Star Citizen?
What I see come, and that's the one thing that I think it's important here. We've heard some of that already during CitizenCon last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what the core thing that I took away from CitizenCon last year is that CRG is actually moving away from the idea of a 10-to-1 NPC ratio, and that they want to move towards a far more player-controlled game, both in how the game evolves and how it's run. Players determine what comes to market and how it comes to market. Things like that. What happens in EVE, for instance, as somebody who runs exploration sites, high-level exploration sites, I bring home resources and materials that are very valuable to industrialists who build parts, modules, ships that are very valuable to PvP players. And for me, I have the skills as a character, and I have the ship that is fit to maximize getting that stuff out of nullsec or out of wormhole space. And at the same time, I'm able to protect myself, not by fitting guns, because to be honest with you, if I play EVE, my ships do not have any offensive weapons. I don't need those.
If I understand, he runs covert op ships, right?
Well, actually no, but I run a ship. What I do is I actually run an interceptor when I run relic sites in nullsec. Why? Because an interceptor is extremely agile. It's very fast, and it can be equipped with modules which allow me to pass through bubbles uninterrupted. So the combination of all those things allow me to do what I want to do while keeping an eye on whatever's happening around me through D-scan, through watching local when it's available, and still be able to see something come in. If there is somebody roaming in the area where I am who is not friendly, and I know him, he will be tagged. He'll have a tag that I see this guy is red to me, or this guy is orange in many cases where he's kind of
so
suspect.
bad.
Yes.
That's why I said the social tools, right? Because they did mention
absolutely. So at that point, I can choose to leave.
And can I pause you there just for a second? Because we have a tiny problem with the way things might work, and I'm really curious on what their solution is going to be. In Eve, because that's a game that you play, it's very simple to understand. When I go into a system, I have a local list of everybody that is in the system that I'm in. But Eve's systems are, they kind of have their little loading screen before you get into them. They're a level and there's nowhere to go. Where Star Citizen systems are massive amounts of space that are very long to traverse. So what would a local appear like?
It wouldn't, because obviously in a game like Star Citizen, local as we know it in Eve has no function. Can't exist. What can exist though is descan. We already have descan, kind of. In a way. And for those who do not really understand what descan is, it's basically a radar ping which goes out in all directions or can be very focused in a certain range. And has a maximum range of in Eve 14 standard units. So that's let's say 14 light years. Let's just call it that for a moment. Just to keep it easy. Anything in that range, I will see. If I see something, I can look just in front of me or just behind me and pinpoint where somebody might be. That is something that works, but it works both ways. It works for me as a PvE player if I'm in space doing something, but it also works for a hunter who will be able to try and find somebody, a potential target. So that's one thing. A local wouldn't really work, and for me personally, we talked about that earlier in another session, that we had a time that there was no local in Null, and
really
some people were going crazy. They were really pissed off. CCP was just doing a test with that, with not having local. For me, as an explorer, having the skills that I had, it was perfect because I was much harder to find. People who were just
you're already used to like wormhole exploration as well, which is the same thing.
Exactly. And in Eve, I can scale my character, I can fit my ship to the point where I can nearly always get away if somebody jumps me. Even if I don't see them coming, if they're cloaked, the moment they decloak, I'm still able to get away. There's a few exceptions. There's ships who insta-lock. Obviously, that's not going to help. But other than that, I'm fine. And that is mitigating a risk which you have coming into a dangerous area to get resources that are worth going there and having the means to reduce the risk to a point where it becomes acceptable. If I get killed, I get killed.
Yeah.
That happens. And I come back, I buy myself a new ship, and I go straight back out again. So that's the Eve situation. That's something that doesn't happen in Star Citizen right now at all. And I think a big thing, coming back to the topic actually, for me, I think a lot of people who are asking for PVE servers are actually asking for single player servers. They do not really care for anybody. They just want to do their own thing at their own pace, in their own time.
I don't necessarily agree with that, just because a lot of the arguments I've seen have implied that they still want to do like co-op stuff.
Yeah,
like co-op missions and whatnot.
That's fine, but you can do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm saying they want PvE servers, but still to interact with people.
And the reason why I say you can do that now, because one of the arguments I personally use a lot against people who say, well, just bring your friends or bring guns. Well, that's actually not the point. But what you can do is you can go to one of these locations to do trade with a friend, not so much to fight, but somebody stays in the pilot seat, keep an eye on what's happening around you. You can see somebody come in. You either go, get the hell out of here, or you can say, okay, move away, and I'll leave now. I'll come back to pick you up later, something like that. Play the game. if you understand what I mean. Don't just run the mission, but play the game.
Yeah.
And that's an attitude that I'm missing a lot in these arguments as well. And just to bring it back to Eve for a moment, PI is a good example of that. I think it's somewhat comparable to doing missions on a planet surface.
You're saying PI is?
PI is because PI has a central point where you get materials off a planet or manage what's happening on the planet, which is called a customs office.
Yep.
Customs office is in orbit around moons, around planets, and it's a known place. You can warp to it. So
it would be like Everus Harbor in Star Citizen, essentially.
Kind of. The point is
it'd be more like one of these outposts where you're actually grabbing your cargo for like these.
Yes, and but you once you are working on your stuff, doing your PI stuff, you have no idea what's going on around you. So you have to be sure that before you start doing that, you're clear, and you have means to do that. And in Star Citizen, there are some ways to do that, but I think the most important thing is right now for somebody alone. That's very tough.
Well, the moment you get out of your ship, whatever means you did have are now gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, one thing to call another game which has something that might work here: Space Engineers.
Okay.
If you build a ship with a resource scanner, with an ore scanner, and you have an antenna on your ship, once you leave your ship, your suit will receive the information from the ore scanner through the antenna from the ship. So you still see where the ore is, even though you're outside of your ship right now. That is something that could be a mechanic for a future idea, maybe, that they could think of. You're leaving your ship, but you keep communication with your ship. Your ship can warn you there's incoming traffic, or there's something coming, or something's happening.
Imagine Star Citizen making something useful in the Moby Glass. Let's see. I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's simple like that. How hard could something like that actually be to implement?
I mean, whenever somebody says something like that, it's like my hands
probably hard, but
probably
still
hard.
worth them doing.
Yeah.
Worth the effort is a good way to describe it.
No.
Exactly. And one more thing, and this is really the one more thing that I wanted to bring up today. One thing that I would really like to see in Star Citizen, and I'm not really sure how, because it's a little bit more tricky to do it in Star Citizen, but I would love to see fleet mechanics. Because if you have fleet mechanics, ways for one person to take control of a fleet, of a group of ships.
I don't like that.
Why not?
I don't like the idea of me being a fleet leader of Mike and me being able to physically move Mike's ship.
Well, I could not
move
on the spot, but if you're going somewhere else, for instance, to make sure that everybody moves at the same time.
Okay, let's use a simple example that Star Citizen people will understand. But we have to talk about Eve for 2 seconds. I do not a lot of mining, but I do it sometimes. And basically, again, we have this local list, and while we're mining, if somebody shows up that is not us, the fleet commander, the guy who's in control of us, presses a button, and we are instantly warped to a safe spot. And there's like literally no chance that person can kill us. It is so safe, even though we are not safe. And there are probably ways to mitigate that if you're a very organized group. But if it's just one guy roaming around looking for a fight, that one annoying guy can't be annoying to us. He's going to keep us from mining, because if we stay there, we die. But if we don't stay there, we're safe. And they press one button and we're gone. Now, in Star Citizen, what that could look like is the fleet commander sets your route with one button, and you are to aligned to that route, and then they press the button and we all jump.
Which
that could work.
The last bit already happens, right? Like
exactly.
You can already do the party jump. So
the last bit already exists. So all we're asking is for them to set our route, and then everything else is up to you.
Yeah,
that's true. But it also works the other way around, because a lot of people, and I would include myself, if I look at
make this quick because we've been going for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, true.
So the one thing where I would involve myself in PvP in Eve is in a fleet, because I enjoy being in the fleet. It's fun.
Yep.
Yeah. You go roaming together. You go hunting people, but it's always an us versus them in a fun way. But there is something about that. I don't really like being out on my. I don't see the fun in that. I can get people having fun with that. I don't see it. But so yeah, fleet mechanics could work both ways. It could entice people to join in PvP activity more as well. So it works both ways for me. And that's where I'm going to leave it today, guys. Surprise, surprise. It was my last thing.
All right. All right, Blaze.
Love it. All right. We appreciate your call, mate.
Catch you, man.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Have a good one.
All right. And our next caller is Captain Comedy.
Captain, you there? Comedy?
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick. Basically, I agree with PepicWalrus from earlier. It's a post 1.0 activity. I mean, the term PVE servers is just an oversimplification.
Having a PVE server is a post 1.0?
Yeah. Okay. Having PVE servers, it needs to be after 1.0 because PVE servers in itself is just the term is just an oversimplification of what is required. And from a tactical perspective, it's never really been looked at. I mean, sure, they've said in the past, oh yeah, that's something that we want to do, but they've never said when. And from a tactical perspective, there's a lot to consider and so many questions to justify the viability that I don't think it can be answered at this point of time, because it's just not the priority, not by a long shot. Because let's look at 6 items, for example, just the scope, for example. There's already too much high value work to do currently in terms of performance improvements, previously missing and upcoming functionality. It's like, okay, when are you going to squeeze the work in that's required into the rest of that scope? Because you're probably going to have to take something else out just to be able to, just for the developers to be able to fit the time in to do that. We've then got time. It takes too much time to develop, and we don't have time on our side currently. We already complain about there's nothing to do, and the game needs to grow and grow like yesterday. We have functionality missing patches because they haven't got the time to develop it. We've got scoped items being moved out of patches to be able to meet deadlines. Adding this in now is just not the right time to be doing it. We look at cost. This will take money from something else that was already scoped out, and that money's got to come from somewhere. Is it going to come from developing the environments on ships, or is it going to come from other valuable scope? It's just, we already complained of nothing to do, so what's going to come after that PvE environment? There's just more important things to cost up. And in terms of quality, Star Citizen is always, I mean, we know it's an inch deep and a mile wide. If they did PvE functionality now, they'll likely give the absolute minimum. Okay, you can't target a player. Okay, they'll move on to the next thing. They got work to do. They can't wait around. So okay, pad ramming. How are they going to solve that? How are they going to stop someone dropping a cargo container in someone's head? There's so many in-game functionality that needs to be adjusted, and they've now got to maintain this additional branch of gameplay just for a subset of players that just want to play with the environment.
Think about the amount of people the amount of griefers that would be on the PVE servers over the PVP servers.
Oh yeah, it'd be
10 times worse.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's where all the griefers would be.
Actually, good point. So let's do PVE servers. I agree, Mike. Let's go. Here we
Send them all there.
Yeah. Let's look at benefit. I mean, they're pretty much saying they want it now. I don't know, but to this project, I don't see I see it as short-term benefit against a long-term problem. And as they implement more features to structure player interaction better, it's going to undermine the reason for having PVE servers. So yeah, give them PVE servers now, and then they give more control and functionality into the live server. It's like, why they're going to see player numbers in the PVE environment go down because all of the players are over there. You join an org, they're going to be like, what server are you on? Oh, I'm on the PVE. Oh yeah, but we like to do a bit of PvP as well. So, and then it's like, okay, well, how many characters can I have in the game? Because am I allowed to take one character from PVE and then put her on the PvP server?
And
how's that going to work?
That, like, how many NPCs that are just standing there not shooting back can you shoot and call fun? Like, I don't know.
I don't see I just don't see the benefit in it. I mean, maybe like as a post 1.0 activity, remember? Because right now we're just talking about priority here. Later on down the line, sure, if they finish doing the critical things and there's nothing that's more value add, sure, do it. There's like risk as well. I mean, this is just adding more risk onto the project, having to manage 2 branches of the game. Change will always introduce risk. They've now got to manage the new functionality that they've just implemented to make sure it's catering for a PvE only server. It's like, the devs don't have time for that. I don't see how they're going to make that a viable aspect for the developers. I mean, ship environments, for example, with his flames now. It's like I could go onto someone's ship, be in their party, and I just want to grief them all of a sudden. I could just turn the ship on fire and start blowing the ship from the internal side. But the developers never thought when they were building fires on ships that it's a PvE server. So now they're going to have to go back and change everything else. So, you know, there's from just those 6 things, there's like a lot of questions that need to be addressed before they can even be considered at this point of time. It's like, okay, who's going to come off from whatever they're already working on to do the work? What is needed to change to enable a PvE version of the game? We're looking at past activities, current work that they're developing on, and the future work. That's a massive undertaking in itself.
It's also a risk. Like if you are CIG and like you do say, all right, we're going to try PVE servers. If that doesn't work, you could break the game. No one it could destroy the game. I don't think it will necessarily. Well, I mean, I think SUS is a bit stronger than that. I mean, look at the last 15 years, but I mean, like that is a very risky thing to invest in, and then it not work.
Look how long it's taken them currently just to get the fixes done for the existing broken stuff. And they're going to break it again, and they have to revisit it again, all over again. And it's just going to take more time, more cost, not necessarily going to get the value out of it. I mean, why, for example, why is this wanted? Just because the game is in its current state, knowing full well it's going to change. Will the end game support PVE naturally anyway? And if it is this adding value? And I just don't see that. And Mike mentioned earlier, you know, is there 0 risk? And if there's 0 risk, why join an org?
Yeah.
It's almost undermining pretty much every aspect of the current iteration of the game that we have.
Exactly. It just it just felt so in the moment serving. It felt so like I am feeling bad about the game right now, and I want to lash out and say this without like actually thinking. And it just, but again, if you were thinking, you were only thinking about yourself. You weren't thinking about the health of the game in the long term or anything, right? Just, I don't know. It felt weird.
I mean, like I said, it's a one, as far as I'm concerned, it's post 1.0 activity. The game doesn't even work properly right now for a lot of people. Is this going to be more important than a working game that isn't even fully functional? And I can't say yes to that. It's just straight up no.
Yeah. Of course,
especially
not.
Knowing this is just going to add more cost.
Of course, it's not more important than that. But once again, we've had 50 episodes of the podcast in the last year talking about the stability of the game, and so now we're talking about something that is starting to affect players. And so it's going to continue to grow into more and more of a topic, especially as we servers grow even more, as in player counts, right?
Yeah, and I'm similar to the other guy that was saying he's a player versus all type player. I'll play all of it. But I didn't ask. I didn't pay for PVE servers. I didn't pay for the development of those servers. I'm sure a lot of other players who are subscribing to the subscriptions, buying chips or whatever, I don't think they wanted their funding to go to that aspect. That's only going to make the game worse for them if they're not PVE only players. So I don't think that's a serious thing to consider. But people are going to be throwing that up in the forums for sure.
Yeah.
It's just going to add a lot more noise to CIG when it's not needed. And that's why I'm just like, post 1.0 activity, wasting time talking about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fair.
But yeah, anyway.
All right, bro.
That's kind of what I want to say. So thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Comedy.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Captain.
Anything post 1.0 maybe, but let's just make the game.
Yeah.
And figure it out from there. All right, let's bring in our last caller. That is Covalschi. Covalschi, what's up? Long time no talk.
How you doing?
How are you?
What's up? Do you copy? Am I good?
I hear you.
Yeah,
you're a little low. I'm going to bring you up.
Yeah. So, I wanted to bring up the point of PVE servers not being safe from griefing, but you kind of already talked about it. And I just want to reiterate that in an environment where there is mass and physics, players weaponize every possibility in any environment to get rid of the competition, be it PvE server or PvP server. Because people who want PvE servers, it doesn't mean that they don't want to compete, because we won't have ladders in other PvE games if people didn't want to compete. No, they just want to compete on their own scheme in their head. Like, how can they deal with NPC threats? They want just to execute these schemes without any randomness. So it's basically, people want just lower risk. But in a physical ass environment, there are so many indirect ways to interrupt your little NPC encounter.
Yep.
Like, there is no possibility to create a pure PvE experience, and this goes not only towards the PvE servers way, even the Eve way, which I absolutely agree with, and we're absolutely on the same page with you guys about how it should be done. But still, it's very questionable how CIG are gonna solve the indirect.
Oh yeah.
The indirect encounters. But I guess community will have to self-police around that one way or another. I mean, we have a great example in Eve, right? Because the ship bumping thing.
Okay.
Right? Where you'd be mining with an orca in a high sec or low sec area, yeah.
Sure.
But they will just bump your ship and you cannot leave, and this is not an aggression, and it is it is the way community accepted as well. That's how things are, and there will be same things in Star Citizen that are inevitable, and there is no running from it. Besides, as we've said, as you've previously said, single player servers, and I agree that a lot of people who actually want PvP servers, they want co-op experience. Not single player game, but co-op experience.
Yeah.
And I'm just reiterating what has been said at this point. What I also wanted to add is I recently returned to the game from a 1-year pause, and I'm really disappointed because as usual. I've tried doing a day worth of PVE with friends, and the only good part about it was actually just socializing with my friends. It's a podcast citizen.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the outrage from PVE players is, well, which is quite justifiable, that they don't really get anything new, right? It just, I don't like the notion that we've divided the community on two parts. The PvP players are getting something new, but PvE players don't. No one's getting anything new. The events the CAG are doing, jump down with more jump down points. Yeah. Well, like, what's new about that?
I'm getting limited time rewards that are forcing me to jump into the game and do stuff I wouldn't normally do, or do stuff that I would normally do, like with this next event. We're gonna mine and do it that way, but or salvage, maybe, I don't know, but I'm not gonna do the Deditrine side until maybe later. But I'm just they're not giving me nothing, but I understand your argument. The game itself isn't like, after the event's over, the impacts of what we did will not remain forever necessarily. They're going to probably do something goofy with this one where it might decide the way things are, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh, you're basically describing FOMO, right? You're getting FOMO, and then you get into the game, which is fine for MMOs. Let's face it. Like, having an MMO
a new season
without exploiting the FOMO mechanic is impossible, right?
Yeah, it's part of it.
It's fine. However, let's see how it's done in other MMOs, right? Like, good example is World of Warcraft. Even on PVE servers, with what people flex there. Achievement that says, I cleared this raid on the first week, or second week, or third week, right? We don't have this type of shit here. And honestly, the exclusive items that you get are worthless. They're just vanity that people will forget after they get it, and there is no way to flex with them.
Well, the Ardor repeaters are not worthless. They have actually been.
They've got actual bonuses.
Yeah, they're the only ones that they've so far have done, like, oh,
right.
This is kind of cool.
One person gets them, and everyone in your org gets them.
What do you mean? Okay. Okay. I mean, you're talking about that. That is not an argument at all. But
what?
Because it's
okay, fair enough.
It's not. You're talking about like the incomplete game. We're talking about what their value is, and their value is
fair enough.
That they are more useful guns than the standard ones. Like, please be genuine, and if they did something good, say it's good, and because then nobody will ever listen.
I'm honestly not aware of all the reward. I'm really surprised they actually gave some guns, because I didn't really do this stuff. And I assume, like, in the past, you get like a ship paint or a set of armor, which is
exactly, which is not useful at the moment. They might be one day, but the Ardor repeaters at the very least were like, whoa, okay, this is a tweaked bonus for a somewhat meta weapon in PvE, which is like obviously not good for PvPers, but it wasn't a PvP event. So it was like, oh, I gave an advantage. So now when I'm doing bounties, like, it was good. Like, just for example, I put them on my cutter, I think, when I was on a stock account trying to do the event for the next event. So I was like a brand new player, like had nothing, and that allowed me to do something I was incapable of doing with my stock ship. So I was like I actually felt what a player who hasn't played the game for 10 years would feel in that moment, and felt good. So yeah. Just want to make sure I reiterate that. That's all.
I think also a lot of the outrage the community is projecting now is because CIG never made any effort to explain the importance of awareness to the players.
Well, they don't give you the ability to be aware of other players that easily.
Most of the time, when you approach an outpost and see a ship who's just looking down and looking for like NPCs to kill, they still have the radar at the bottom of the screen. You know how many times yesterday we've killed like 5 or 6 guys. You know how many times yesterday we waited like 5 minutes above them? No one just bothered to look up. Yeah. They've continued to. It's CIG lacks the entry mission tree, the basic tutorial, not the fucking tutorial we have. It's garbage. I'm sorry, but it's really garbage and it's broken.
I haven't done it in forever, but it wasn't good when I did it.
I'm just gonna say it being broken is not like it being broken is a bad thing. The tutorial works. It teaches people how to play the game, and the game needs that. Like, it probably needs more. It needs like career tutorials as well.
Well, he's saying like, does it tell you to look at your radar at all?
No. And in Stanton, we never had any like, and still even in Pyro, we don't have any missions that will tell you to look the radar. It's always arrive to the destination, and the NPC will spawn right there, and you don't even need. It's either doesn't spawn at all, and you're like the mission is broken, or it's right there, and you don't even need to scan.
Yes, there is. There's a bunch of bounty missions that when you get to the location says scan for the target.
Oh,
and then you have to scan for the target.
Yeah, he's been gone for a year, but at the same time, like you click scan, and then they're like within your window in front of. Like it's not a.
Yeah.
Not much of a mechanic.
It's not a particularly complex scan, but like it does require you to at least.
Well, that's at least some improvement.
Yeah, but
exactly. You know what I'm saying. There should be a little quest chain that just takes your hand and makes you go through all the possible career options you have.
Like, I think we're gonna get
temporary
that.
Ship.
Yeah.
And this will, I think, significantly lower the amount of people that like just don't understand what they are doing wrong.
Yeah.
Because I think
Can I jump in and say your point is like mega fair, and I'm not going to disagree with it at all. But I can only go based off of what they say, whether you believe it's true or bullshit or whatever. That's going to be on you. I happen to believe them in this case, but they're going like, yo, mission refactor was super hard, so we're going to slowly integrate new missions back in or the old missions back in. So most of the stuff isn't there, but theoretically, the idea here would be, hey, mission refactor is now working, then they can do that stuff, and they can make entry level like your first rank of those missions would definitely be more handholdy. They have done stuff like that where the first rank of bunker bounties had little markers over the heads of the guards so you didn't kill them, but then the next ones did not, right? When you went up in rank, that was gone. Stuff like that. So you could do they could do stuff like that. They have to do it better, but I don't think that's going to solve our PvE versus PvP problem. Let's put it that way. It's a mentality, and it's not.
It's absolutely a mentality. It comes from people who want everyone to be a winner instead of everyone having a possibility to be a winner.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm not necessarily that. I think they just want to play the game that they bought. And when they when things happen that they don't get to participate in, that's of course going to feel bad.
Now, this isn't directed at Montoya at all, but if you're going to make Reddit threads and cry about these things and say these things, it's hard to not go back at you and be like, you want your participation trophy type. Like, I think if you're going to make these arguments, I think that you are opening yourself up for the argument back in their direction. While it's not entirely fair, they're not being fair either. And it's like, what do you do in this situation? Like, you're gonna have to make a joke about them, I guess, at some point. But hey, covalschi, we're coming up to like a few minutes before we end the podcast, so let's wrap it up here.
Okay, so one last point, is I really want to see how EVE-like economy can survive in Star Citizen, because one of the biggest issues I see is the travel times and the travel distances are too small. We have like 5 systems, and jumps between planets and gates are very, very fast.
Have you played in Pyro?
Yeah.
No, I think you're still correct. Like I guess at the very least, compare how many like actions you take in Eve when you do a big amount of travel versus in Star Citizen. Even with the theoretical 5 systems,
one action is
it's
jumping
just
like 10 jumps in Eve, or maybe like 5 jumps in a big freighter or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to transfer your cargo from one part of the map to other, and if you can easily travel for like 20 gates, right? And here, it will be easy logistics.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the argument. I'm not sure what you're arguing. I'm trying to understand.
I'm just saying the amount of hotspots you need to cross in Star Citizen when you're transferring a large amount of cargo
are minimal.
It is much less than
Understood.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like the actual locations.
Understood. Gotcha. I thought it was a time thing, and I'm like, the time is hell. What are we talking about?
No.
Okay. Understood. I understand.
And this is what worries me a lot, because when I've entered the game, I assumed that in Pyro I'll need a much better quantum drive. I won't be able to travel with my Pisces around Pyro, because that's what they've been saying all the time. But now I can I can do cross-system jumps in a Mantis, which was unimaginable before, and it really saddens me. Like why?
That to be fair, was likely a change just due to the fact that it turns out
Pyro's
refueling every like 30 seconds is not fun. Who would have thought that that was possibly a thing? And so I understand that frustration, because it sounded cool of like, oh, you really have to worry about your fuel. In practice, it ended up just being bad gameplay.
Yep.
I agree, because we don't have a lot of activity that's tied to some planetary body. But they'll have to make it, because as we know, the biggest money sink in any MMO economy are not the things you lose, like when you die, is the repair and like basically maintenance cost. This is the biggest money sinks. And it's basically tax.
Yeah.
Yep. And they'll have to introduce that at some point or another. And I think this outcry that we're having right now will be just like child's play. Because each time CIG tried to introduce like prices on rockets, something that increases the maintenance cost, especially for big ships, the community would just go furious, and there was no backlash almost at all.
Think about the moment they saw the engineering stuff with big ships. They were like, "No, I can't fly it solo. I'm gonna lose my mind." It's like, I mean, you knew all along it was a multi-crew ship.
Yeah. And I think this battle that we're having right now, we don't really need to care about it, but we really need to prepare to push back.
We only care about it because nothing happened this week.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a minor thing right now, and like all of us, both the for and against, are blowing it out of proportion.
Everybody knows there's never going to be PVE servers. It's the dumbest idea of all time, and if they are, I will. Everyone will be happy because I will quit.
Yeah, I'd say
a podcast is over. Everything's done.
Just real quick, Covalschi, because you've been on for 17 minutes.
Oh, I'd say all the previous PVE servers outrages made it possible for PVE servers to become, but we've done it, guys. There will be no PVE servers now. All the sweaty Spectrum on Reddit posters who backlashed at that, good job.
Yeah. Good. All right. Yeah. We'll let you go though, Kowalski, because it is time.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
And I literally said we were going to end the podcast an hour ago.
Later,
and if you can't tell, I faded at the end. I faded hard. So I'm sorry. Yeah. I wanted to pay attention to you guys at the end, and I am struggling so bad. My head is killing me.
I want to point out one thing before we ended, which is I do appreciate everyone that called in today.
Yeah,
pretty much everyone that called in today was like anti-PVE server. There were people in the chat that were pro PVE server, and the only reason I'm calling you out, please call into the show. We're not gonna.
I literally asked him. I saw one of these guys. I literally asked him before the show. I said, I have a podcast that we're going to talk about this. I would love to hear from you. but I'm not going to because I was like one guying with him in chat, like he was the only guy that was saying it. And it's like, you have an open. That is the whole point of the show. Is we're not gonna. I'm not gonna just like yell at you and shit on you if I don't agree with you. Hopefully, we can have a back and forth. I think you guys have seen that we can have disagreements and it's okay. But,
so please, if you guys ever have like very different opinions to us, please call in, which you can get the link to the Discord by going underneath here, which, hey, when you go underneath here on YouTube, there's also a fun little subscribe button there as well that you could maybe click. Come and follow both SaltEMike and myself over on Twitch. We stream this podcast on SaltEMike's channel, and in addition, if you are watching this in the future, we also stream this live on YouTube. We've been doing it for a year now, and it's been awesome. Memberships, thank you to that one person that did the super chat today. We appreciate it a ton. It was awesome. I think I covered everything.
Yeah. And next week we should have an ISC. I can't remember what it is. I think they might have talked about it.
And a roadmap of some description.
And possibly supply or die. So
possibly. Could be there. Could be there by the end of the week.
Yeah, I doubt it because it says March, so we probably have one more week of testing, but who knows? And yeah, hopefully it's good. Oh, the supplier die is ISC.
Yeah.
Didn't they do that last week?
No.
What? Did it?
No.
I know they covered like the lore of everything, but supplier die was like 100% part of it at the end, like towards the end of the show. I wonder what this is going to be about. Okay, maybe it'll probably be a short one. Yeah, we'll see what this is. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm more interested in how useless the roadmap is going to be. It was already useless, but now I wonder how much more useless.
See how many features got pushed. Certainly, some features got pushed. How many?
You would think all of them.
Surely, one at least is there.
Prediction: Do they list off features for 4.1? Like a feature that is like
I think so, but not
locked
many.
in. Yeah.
Ones that had already been pushed out of 4.0, and then even then probably not as many as they pushed out.
They have their hands full with this one, with the way they decided to do things this year. So it's good. I'm just curious is really what it is. But anyway, guys,
exactly.
That's where we're going to leave it. So appreciate you all. Thank you for all the love. And sorry for getting pretty low T towards the end, but I am exhausted. I am exhausted today. So we'll catch you. And hopefully next week is a little bit more busy, but I hope you enjoyed the discussion today. And I hope you understand that we're coming from a place that I want the game to live for 20, 30 years. So when I'm 60 and decrepit, that I have my game that I was good in this game once or something like that, even though I'd be lying to myself and I wasn't. But I think we're all looking for our last MMO, and it's not going to work with the PVE servers for me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm going to fight against that idea. And we'll catch you later, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget.
Answer the call.
Answer the call. My phone was upside down. I'm sorry.